So how? Right. Okay. Here's the real question: If you were presented with a 20-foot tall version of yourself, what would your reaction be? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Star Trek.
I'd be like, "Wow, that's a 20-foot version of me. Where'd that come from?"
Did they ever explain why he was giant?
No.
It was just
never.
Just was
fertilizer.
giant.
Yeah.
That was
I
the
guess
point
he just
of the whole
decided
thing.
I'm making a new body. It might as well be huge.
Yeah.
But he couldn't breed out in the successive clones of the male pattern baldness. He still had the. Give yourself a full head.
Listen,
if you're making choices.
This personal experience, there's some things you just cannot fix. But yes, anyway, welcome to Star Trek, our ongoing journey through the episodes of Star Trek in continuity. This was the Infinite Vulcan. We've just finished watching the episode of TAS featuring a very, very large Spock and some problematic plant people. This was written by Walt Koenig. There is a little bit of a story behind this because Chekhov doesn't actually appear in TAS at all for those eagle-eyed viewers. He was not in it at all, not because of a snub or anything. I think they just had a limited budget, couldn't afford all the actors. That's why James Doohan is pretty much every other character in this show. However,
I couldn't tell.
Yes, he actually wrote this episode, and he says apparently the decision was made that they would take the script before they decided who was going to be in it. So the branch was already written out there. However, he does have a little bit of a negative perspective on this, and you can give you three guesses to who caused this negative reaction. But the idea for the Philosians was suggested by Gene Roddenberry during the installment's rewrite process, which Koenig didn't find pleasant. He said, Gene thought since this was animation we should take advantage of it and wanted me to bring in these talking vegetables. I wrote those characters and there was actually a little tongue-in-cheek description of them referring to them as pomegranates or asparagus. But Gene kept asking for rewrites. And on another occasion, Koenig again remembered the rewrite process has been a hideous experience. Further recalled, I must have done 11 or 12 drafts. When somebody asks you to do 12 rewrites, you begin to think you can't write at all. But of course, he found out later that Gene was asking people to do rewrites just to add his own ideas to the story. So he's basically asking them to do that so they stick. So obviously it's a Gene Roddenberry, hey, this was my idea thing. Apparently they asked Walter Koenig to write another one. He went, absolutely not.
I refuse.
I
refuse your assertion.
What did we think about the semi-genocidal but not genocidal plant people? Gentlemen.
There was a lot going on in this episode. There was a lot going on.
So fast.
They were good.
They made a bold
bad.
statement up front. Infinite Vulcan, you think this is going to drag on forever. Man, I wish there was a little bit more time here to digest everything. They
Literally the opposite.
Flew from one premise to the next.
We just watched The Enemy Within, which we were just saying, like, we wish they could have had like 20 minutes cut off. This one was like, no, put that in this episode. Like,
So he was going to create a peacekeeping force.
Yeah.
But it was just giant Spocks.
Yes.
But
Giant Spock's well known as like the Uber commandos of their day.
But what was the? I mean, did they have technology behind that, or is it just
rockets,
giant
didn't
Spocks?
they? The idea
Rockets
was
and giant
that,
Spocks.
The idea was like this guy's come straight from
Hours.
eugenics wars and is under the impression that the whole galaxy is on fire. So he's come off to this planet, found these problematic plant people, and just decided to go like, you guys are going to help me create a master race. He spent 200.
Okay, I love problematic plant people. That's so good. That's so good. I have to tell you, I've gone through like 3 different ratings this episode, and I'm really tempted to make it problematic plant people. I'm not going to, but I'm really tempted.
But yeah,
That should have been the title of the episode.
Yeah,
It would have been more accurate because, like, the Infinite Vulcan, like, there wasn't really. There was 2. There was a very finite number of Vulcans.
There's a very definitive number of Vulcans.
This was a very misleading episode title. So giant Vulcans. This was a very poorly thought out plan. Like, these plant people obviously at no point like offered any constructive criticism to his plan. So giant.
It was too awkward. He was just up there with his like lack of pants, like, I'm gonna take over the universe, and they're like, yeah, it's gonna go great.
And how would they know where there's trouble? Because like you haven't stayed in touch clearly for the last 200 years, and any question would have
They'll just
instantly this plan
just
would
know.
have all fallen apart like Idol's Lego. It just, it would have.
I see you've seen me put up a shelf before, yeah. I think the whole
Yeah, like your flat pack drawers.
yeah. So no, it was a weird one because there was also the backstory of the plant people's. Or the Phylosians kind of past. They're like, yes, we cannot reproduce anymore. We're a dying species.
That was interesting.
But that didn't.
And they went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't seem to matter at all. It was just like,
You know what it is? It feels like Volcanic had like so many ideas, and he was like, "I have to get them down in one script." It's like, no, bro, this is like 3 different episodes.
Well, I think
Easily.
like we established, I think that was Gene Roddenberry. I think he had his idea because the plant people weren't even in the Phylosians weren't even in the original script. This was, I think, it was literally just going to be about a giant. Well, I don't even know if giant Spock was there. Well, to be fair, probably Volcanic's script was probably just like, yes, I'll write it, and then Gene Roddenberry just filled out the rest. I should dissuade him like that.
Overtired suggests that maybe he wasn't as big as he looked. He was just in the foreground.
This Spock is far away. This Spock is close.
Get out of here, Dougal! Get out of here!
It would explain why it was never brought up in conversation.
Yeah.
They do mention that they're big. They do mention that they're giant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every now and then. But they should not have been like, holy shit, he's giant, like I would do.
They
Like,
cloned him and made him big off
Yeah.
camera. But then they also went away and knitted exact replicas of the clothes that he was wearing.
No, they cloned the clothing as well.
They cloned the
was
clothing.
with them. Yes.
Okay. That's okay. Problematic.
So
It's
if
fine.
if you clone somebody and you've stolen their mind, then does your subsequent clone also steal your mind? Like, how is that process not destructive so that you can make an infinite amount of Vulcans? Are they...
You know what? It would have been
had
interesting
uploaded
if
it
there
to
was
the
an
mainframe.
implication that all the clones were getting crazier and crazier as they went along. But
I would
the
love
implication appears to be that it was a perfect transference because the guy was already a nutcase. But you
He said he'd uploaded it to this machine. But uploading it was moving it from original Spock to the machine, whereas cloning was.
Why couldn't you just hit Control C and V?
So the movie can happen.
Yeah. So the infinite. I think the implication of the infinite Vulcan is that he was going to make an infinite amount of Spocks, like, and then send them out.
I think
somehow
McCoy would have put
in the
a
rockets.
sager in his mouth. I think he would have just...
Yeah, but I think I did like the conceit at the end that his plans ultimately failed because Spock is just Spock, and he'd be like, "No, I'm not doing that." Literally, just turned around and went,
stupid.
"No." It's just like, why would I do
That's a dumb idea, and you're dumb.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Kirk tried, but truly only Spock can Spock block you.
got Spock blocked.
Very good.
But he didn't die. He was. There's a whole. That's a whole episode of Strange New Worlds that we could watch. Oh no, because that's before Taz, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever. There's a giant Spock out there somewhere.
Yes, there is.
Does he live
He's
as long
dead
as
by the
regular
time-
Spock?
He's dead by the time of Lower Decks because you see his skeleton hanging in a museum,
Yeah.
but he apparently is canon to the Star Trek universe.
Giant Spock skeleton is hanging.
yes,
I haven't seen the episode yet.
Yeah.
I'm still on
It's like
episode
about one of the
2 of
background
Logan's.
details. They run through a corridor and suddenly it's like, oh, it's gone. It's like, you
Well,
blink
doesn't
and
like
you'll
Mariner grab his femur and start using it as a weapon?
see it. Probably. Season 1.
Sounds like Mariner.
I did like the any excuse for a mind meld, but it's just like the mind touch is like, I'm just going to
Mind
put my
touch.
finger.
The mind boop, yeah. And also, he can duplicate his mind. He can do what the computer can't.
Yeah. Yeah, he did do that. It was just like, yeah, this episode just felt like a whole lot of just like, yeah, it just is. Don't think about it. Like you go from like, oh, it's a plant, but it can
Kid logic.
uproot
It's
itself
running
and
on
walk
kid
around.
logic of, yeah, that's fine.
I felt like the Phylosians were like quite an interesting concept because, like you say, you can't do this in anything but animation. Like, you know, they've evolved from the ground.
And then they're probably sidelined for a weird asshole in a toga.
That was I would have watched that whole
Yeah.
episode. If it was an episode about that and their backstory, that was interesting.
Yeah, they were dying out.
They're the kind of
Classic
aliens you get in Mass Effect, proper
Yeah.
weird aliens. They're
Yeah,
Thorian.
the
Oh, was that-
Thorian. Yeah.
Was that the sun winking at the beginning? Like, was their sun
Yeah.
about to go nova, and that's why they were dying because they weren't getting the chlorophyll? Man, there was so much unsaid about this episode that just got left on the cutting room floor. One of the things that made it though that I appreciated was Kennicles. I thought the idea of him being this general that's gone off on the Siberian March and now he has no way to receive new orders and he's still on his original mission even though 200 years later it's completely the wrong direction. Really neat. Even though it was just a footnote in the episode, you get his motivation. He's clearly spoken. He's not a maniac. He's just a guy doing his job, and no one ever told him to stop.
Yeah, no, he's actually relatively reasonable the instant you say, hey, look, you can just hang out here with Giant Spock and do whatever you guys, the giant dudes, are going to do.
Yeah.
I also had to give Koenig props for taking a background element from from TOS and decided to expand on it. Because, it's not like that was kind of uncommon back in TOS days. You didn't usually do that. This is kind of a sequel to Space Seed, in a way.
It's the diversion.
Kind of. Yeah.
I think there's also what's the episode where they get all with Yarnek and they get all like the character they get Colonel Green. He's like a World War III
the Savage Curtain.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the Savage Curtain. That's kind of like another annex of that kind of storyline. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
No,
such a wild episode.
Yeah, it was
such
mad.
Wild. He literally has the exact opposite problem. There is so much going on. It feels like it is written for kids with ADHD. Where it's just like, guess what? You will not be worrying about things happening on screen.
Is it accurate to say that this felt more wild than the Lower Decks episode? Because that can get pretty rowdy.
Yeah,
that's pretty frenetic.
Yeah, actually,
yeah, it's an interesting point.
And yet,
more subplots.
But you know what? There's some really good characterization in here as well. Like, Kirk gets to do his big Kirk speech. You get like a reference to the Edict and the eugenics wars. Spock gets to be very, very Spock. McCoy has his old great granddaddy's weed killer recipe. Uhura gets some lines and kind of like comes in clinch with like her library knowledge.
She gets to lecture Scotty on engineering stuff. Absolutely.
Scotty gets to be in command of the Enterprise. Sulu gets to do a cool like judo throw and he gets the last line and a wink at the camera. Everyone gets something to do. You can kind of tell this was written by a cast member.
There you go. Right on.
You can tell it was written by a cast member because he was like, I'm going to give everyone else, because that's what you do. When you're a kind of ancillary cast member and you're used to not getting anything, you're like, the instant you get hands on the writing room, you're like, I'm in there. Everyone gets something to do. I don't care what the fuck it is. I don't care how small it is. Someone gets something.
Lorelei Signal 2, let's go.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. A little bit.
I can't help but feel like I really enjoyed it though. Like
it was a good episode.
It was
a
bad,
good
but it was
bit of science fiction.
Yeah,
on a par with other Taz episodes. You put it because I think that's pretty much the only Taz episode I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I definitely enjoyed this more than like the Tribbles one was good. Lorelei Signal was good. What else have we watched? I can't see some of the earlier ones. I felt... Yesteryear was really
Spock,
good.
Prequel episode. Yeah,
that was really
Yesteryear.
good. It's been a while since we watched those, but
Yesteryear.
Beyond the Fold, Yesteryear is really good.
Is Taz aimed at younger people, or was it just we're just doing it?
I think it
was a Saturday morning cartoon, but a lot of the scripts were stolen from unaired TOS stuff. So
it does present as a more kind of like adult animation. Like we used to adult animation now. Like that's our go-to, so we can watch it and kind of go like, yeah. But back in there, it was like cartoons that children. My dad will still not watch anything animated because he's like he won't watch Lower Decks or Prodigy. Is like
older people kind of have that obstacle. Yeah, I know a woman who I talked to at work, and she loves Star Trek, but she refuses to watch any of the animated shows.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, let's go for best and worst moments. Start with stars.
I get a pick of the litter. Best moments. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and say the world building. Like, there is so much time and effort spent to just creating a world and a race and history and just constant lore and constant backstory. And it's like, it's a little bit overwhelming to have so much of it shoved in your face to the point where like the pacing really, really suffers. But like, everything was interesting. If this was like a long form quest in like Fallout, I'd be way into it. I bet it's one of my favorite side quests in the game. There's just so much detail put into it. You can really tell that Koenig has like an eye for like classic sci-fi tropes and like you're playing around with them a little bit. And I also, I'm gonna probably pinch it from Dan here, but like I really do appreciate it. He was like, you know what? We don't have to worry about budget. We can put whatever the fuck we want on screen. I'm gonna throw everything at it. I'm gonna have giant Spocks. We're gonna have a guy in a toga. We're gonna have weird spaceships. We're gonna have like weird purple dragon things with weird hairstyles. and we're going to have plant people. It's like, this isn't just us running around the Enterprise dicking about. It's like, no, he was like, no, we're taking advantage of this. So I appreciate that. Worst moment, yeah, it's just the pacing. Like, this needed another 20 minutes. Straight up, I think if you gave us another 20 minutes, you'd have a really, really good episode. Like, hell, I'm like thinking about this. Like, I could take the bones of this episode and turn it into a really good STA campaign. Like, there's so much going on, you know? Like, I want more of it. That's the problem. I want more of it, and I want it to be better paced.
Monkey, best and worst.
Yeah, I might be just sort of reiterating what Stars just said, but the best for me was when they walked into the giant chamber and there was all the giant dead
that was cool.
And problematic plant people, and that it was the world building at that point. It's like, this is really fascinating. Oh, a guy came to our planet and he died, but no, we don't hate him because he spent his life trying to save us, and here's our old. And it was just this right up until that moment. It was world building. It was really interesting, and then the worst moment was that instantaneously they went, ah, here's some poorly animated pink dragons that are gonna steal Spock for no apparent reason. Now we're doing this story. Now forget that story that we were just looking at. We're gonna go do this thing. Actually, forget that thing. Now we're gonna go and do that thing. And there was no cohesion. There was no. Yeah. It's been said. I'm just repeating what Star said.
No, that's why I like hearing it, because you're right. There is a lack of cohesion. It's just a stream of consciousness of ideas. But you're right.
That's what it was.
Gone down.
All right. So Mr. Monkey has taken my one moment mentioning the freezer full of frozen vegetables. They got to reveal that the Jolly Green Giant got to reveal. So we'll pivot. We'll pivot though. Stars, I want to shout out. You mentioned Fallout, and while I was watching the episode, and they had the reveal of all the rocket ships ready to launch. So Fallout New Vegas, fly me to the moon. Exactly.
Yeah, you're thinking of the ghouls. Yeah, the bright
with the ghouls.
Brotherhood, yeah,
going to the promised land. Fantastic shout. So, not my favorite moment though. I will go with my worst moment first. It's a toss-up, and they're both the action. They had to insert some action into the episode to keep the kiddies watching. I think I think I'll go with Captain Kirk trying to pin all of the 6 or 7 arms of the asparagus guy and hold him from behind in an awkward full Nelson, just because that's what Kirk does. He just, incapacitates.
This works on everybody. They told me it's the universal
plants
move.
and yeomans, and this is what he does. So we're going to put that. Sorry. And anyways, the best moment though. This may actually be the best use of the Vulcan mind meld. And it's a Deus Ex Machina frequently, where they'll save the episode with Spock actually performing a mind meld, but here he's actually doing it to perform psychic surgery to insert himself back into his old body. So I mean, if you're gonna use it, go ahead and use it, on yourself like that. Just a really cool twist at the end. I think him saving himself in that way was great. So I did worst and best. Okay, good. All right, Idol, what do you got?
I like the Philosians. I think they're such a, it kind of echoes on what you've been saying about the world building and things like that. I really like this race in general being, for a 20-minute, as frenetic as this episode was, how kind of well portrayed they were. You kind of got their backstory, you kind of got what they were about. This like a race of beings that evolved from plants, and they don't just like look like people who are green. They are actually like this weird, unique shape with their own style of structure. It's like such a cool alien thing that I kind of love to see. It's not just
weird little eye stalks were cool.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. It's not just another being with a bit of plastic surgery on their face. It was really cool. So I really love the Philosians. I kind of wish, and you do see them again in Lower Decks, and I won't spoil for those that want to see it, but that's also a good episode. But was it the Philosians in them, or that's the other one? It might be the other race actually. But anyway.
So many problematic plant people.
So yeah, no, they were good. I really like them. I wish we kind of got the episode focused around them rather than Jolly Green Giant's race to send Spock out into the galaxy for no real reason other than he's a huge fan. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that.
Love your work, Spock. Love your work.
So right at the end, for no real reason, Kirk just decides to have a little pop at Sulu and just kind of goes, "Oh, you're so unscrutable," or "Are you scrutable?" I'm like, "Do we even know what this means?" And then you gotta get Sulu look at the camera going, "Ha ha!" You know, it's nice that Sulu got the last laugh, but I didn't quite understand it. It was very kind of like, you have to teach me that judo roll, like Kirk's not been doing his Kirk Fu, like left, right, and center off every alien.
Yeah, you know Sulu's is better. Sulu's
cool. True. This is true. Which is, you know, nice to have a moment between Kirk and Sulu because you never get one. But I did feel that was a little bit like out of nowhere. They're on this planet. They need to be wrapping up the fact and reporting to Starfleet that, yeah, by the way, one of our crew members is now about 60 foot tall. But no, I did. I really enjoyed this episode. I can't help it. I'm smiling all the way through. So let's move on to. Oh, I do have a question. A slightly sidetracked question. I did write it down. What do you think would happen if regular Spock had died and Giant Spock had replaced him on the Enterprise? Thinking about episodes coming up and films, how do you think things like The Wrath of Khan or The Final Frontier would have been different?
He just reaches out the top of the ship and grabs the Reliant.
Yeah. Could you imagine, you know, like the undiscovered country, and he's just leaning down, looking into the conference room, saying, "Jim, you're gonna have to talk to the Klingons."
I think it'd be great for just like, I mean, he's got to stay in the shuttle bay, right? So he's always just kind of crammed into the corner of the shuttle bay and they got to work around him. Like, there's no other place they could keep him on the Enterprise.
Yeah, they save a lot of money on fuel though, because he just picks up the shuttle and whacks it out the fucking back of the ship.
Slingshot maneuver.
Overtide's come up with a good one. Giant Spock swimming in the whales. He just picks them up and just, "We're taking these with us. We're having these now.
These are mine now.
George
You can't stop me."
And now you mate."
Duct tape them together, send them through the transporter.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do. Remind me of Mass Effect. Speaking, I know you said Fallout as well, but it had a Mass Effect, like, because they. I don't know how far you've gotten into Mass Effect yet, but
we played it.
The aliens in Mass Effect are genuinely alien, and it's brilliant, and they've got different digestive systems, very different sort of. The planets that they've been on meant that they've evolved in a really different way, and I like that. That was the first time I've ever seen that in Star Trek, where it wasn't just someone with some shit on their face. Basically, there was an actual alien.
It was the Thorians in Mass Effect that were very similar.
Yeah, Thorians were the plant people. Yeah, well, you don't even see the one, but they're so
Hanar as well.
The Hanar,
Hanar,
and the really slow moving thing that has to emote.
The L-Core.
It's what it's.
Quiet surprise.
Yeah.
We'll be starting Mass Effect soon. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, Monkey, we're gonna be streaming Mass Effect. It's the best Star Trek game.
I would love to play Mass Effect for the first time again. Like, to wipe my memory and play it for the first time again. It'd be great.
Well, join us doing that in a few weeks. Anyway, let's go for stars. What is our rating system for this week, please?
I've had so many candidates. I was thinking problematic plant people. Yeah. I had upskirt shots of Caniculus out of 10 for a while. But honestly, I'm so charmed. I have to say, gentlemen, how many scrutable men out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
It's on my notepad, scrutable Sulus. Thank you. Very good. Very good.
Oh, scrutable Sulus. All right,
we'll go with scrutable Sulus. I like the alliteration.
Sulus.
Very good.
Scrutable Sulu. Okay, stars. Rating, please.
Honestly, I had to give this like 8 scrutable Sulus out of 10. I really like this episode. It's just so much fun. There's so much imagination going on. There's never a dull moment. Everyone gets something to do. People are enthused. People are having fun. It just takes full advantage of the medium. It just goes full whack shit crazy. It's not a somber character piece, but sometimes you don't really want that. Sometimes you just want to get like hit with the makeup shotgun of ideas, you know? Yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. I really like this episode. I was not expecting, yeah.
Mr. Monkey.
Yeah. 6.
6, okay.
I agree with everything you just said, but I also feel it squanders that as well at the same time.
Every one of these ideas could be an entire another episode, and that episode would also be good.
It needed to be tighter and I'm more focused. Pick a lane, you know. But I also agree with everything you said. But I just feel like it was squandered.
Go with your heart. You know how you feel. Dan.
Ooh, so I pre-rated it as 6, cautious optimism, and so this episode has earned all 6 of those scrutable Sulus and then some. I'm going to give +2 for the writer Walter Koenig. Just really showing some fantastic ideas. Star, as you had mentioned, making sure everybody in the ensemble had something interesting to do. But also making sure that he was aware of the format, that what he was writing could be done, because this isn't an issue of budget, and when you're animating, anything can happen. So just a real great awareness of everything that makes Star Trek Trek. What a great ambassador for the franchise, and a really great showing. So I will give this episode an 8 scrutable Sulus out of 10. And let's hope again that the next time they beam down to a planet that Spock doesn't risk turning into a vegetable. All right.
I'm gonna go with 7.5. And that's not a bad rating in a minute. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The thing that let me down, it's paced batshit insane. Like, it is so fast. Everything's happening so much. The start of the episode is nothing like the end of the episode. The plot lines are numerous, intertwining, and insane. However, I kind of enjoyed it. Like, you want a little palate cleanser before we go on to your next serious episode of Star Trek, watch this and you kind of go like, okay, now I'm ready for anything now. Like, it's balls to the wall. More like,
your mind has been expanded.
Yeah, it's mad when you can say a Taz episode is more insane than a Lower Deck, like, insanely paced than a Lower Decks episode. Then you've kind of got something wild here. But definitely enjoyed it. Definitely really enjoyed it more than I remember I did, because I think I remember watching this before, and I think because of those purple aliens shrieking the entire time, and I was like, oh, no, I can't handle much of this. Like, but on a rewatch, I definitely appreciate that much. So that's 7.5 scrutable Sulus out of 10, and that takes our score for this episode to a 7.4. I'm just going to see where this.
Right.
That's strong. I like it.
Pretty good. This is just better than Memento Mori from the Strange New Worlds. It's actually a little bit less than Eye of the Needle, which we recently reviewed as well. So it's around that bull mark. And Star Trek is now a 6.4 overall. 6.4 overall.
It's getting better.
It's getting better.
Slowly getting up.
We've been escaping out of the 6s, escaped out of the 5s now, but we're good now. Thank you very much, Stars and Dan, for joining me. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Low Cost Monkey. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. But we will be back in a couple of weeks, hopefully watching the Andorian Instance, see if we can rope Marie into getting this. We'll have a shrantastic...
I'll bully her into getting around.
We'll have a shrantastic set of episodes. Also, join us on Wednesday when we're continuing the Elite Force Farce, our continuing journey through shooting things in the name of Star Trek. And, actually no, because this is going live in like May, so I shouldn't really be saying that. Go watch the Elite Force Farce. Go watch the Elite Force Farce on YouTube.
We're probably going to be shooting things in Mass Effect instead, so it's still
we'll probably have a load of videos on this. Anyway, join us in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you soon. Live long, prosper, all that stuff. Like and subscribe. Blah, blah, blah. Enjoy
Live long and proper.
And that as well. And be scrutable.